check your mic real quick.
Check. What's up? My camera is crooked because I am crooked. Hello, Facebook. Hello, Twitch. We are broadcasting live on our streaming elements, the live elements of our show. Let me put AR bot so that camera doesn't cover up our boy, Sam the Man Zia.
Live elephants.
Live elephants. No, what? Do the thing. Oh, I forgot. I have to press the button to do the thing. Gotta press the button to do the thing.
Gather the things and do the thing.
All right, now the thing's doing the thing.
There you go.
And my controller is vibrating. Why do things have to vibrate all around me? This is madness. This is Sparta. It is Sparta. Live from Los Angeles, this is Dre's Geek Philosophy, the June 19th edition, the day after Father's Day. A very happy Father's Day to the father in the room. Executive producer, excessively long executive producer, Sam, the man, Zia. You've celebrated your first Father's Day with your wonderful, awesome child, Mojo Jojo.
Mojo Jojo. Thank you so much for making me a dad, Mojo Jojo.
You're a Faja.
It was a lot of fun, man.
You're a Faja.
Yeah.
And that adorable photo of your son that you posted, which immediately made me think of Dustin from Stranger Things, because your son has that adorable toothless smile, just like Dustin from the show. It's like, no, it's so cute.
Yeah, I'm lucky. This kid's awesome. I don't know how the hell he's mine.
Scientifically, my friend, you threw your baby batter inside your lovely girlfriend, and 9 months later, baby, that's how it happened.
Yeah, he must have gotten all those looks from Mama. There's no way that
he got it from his mama. Got it from his mama.
Yeah, he's too cute.
he is quite adorable. We still, I keep saying it all the time. I need to come over, and we need to do the hip hop lullabies.
I've been thinking about that more recently. I would love to do more Ain't Nothing But a G Thing and stuff like that.
Hell yes, we got to do the hip hop lullabies.
Yeah.
You and I, we have to do Gangsta's Paradise.
Yes.
Oh.
And we got to get Lamar in on a couple of them.
Well, no, naturally. Naturally, Lamar is a singer, but
I mean, just for cameo appearances and stuff. But
appearances.
We got to do this soon.
We
actually starts understanding the words we're saying to him.
Well, he's still young and innocent and has no idea of the words that we're saying. Just hit the east side, the LBC. Oh, it is amazing and it's adorable. It'll be great. It'll be, and then we'll film it for the podcast page, for the podcast. We do all kinds. We're doing content. I mean, I don't know if anyone noticed. Last Wednesday we did a Talking Comics. I'm still workshopping the title for that. Like Talking Shop is a podcast from a couple of wrestlers. So I was like, oh man, I'm like Talking Comic Shop Talking. Something or other, something involving talking and comic shop. Yeah. But we did that in a nice, fun 20-minute improv session. Yeah. And I felt I had fun. Yeah. I felt like you probably had a little fun, and we got to do a little business. Because I know you're trying to figure out a way how to incorporate Facebook Live into your business. I want to say I felt like that was more like kind of a test run for what you want to do with Facebook Live for the store,
right? Yeah.
Where you want to use Facebook Live to let me promote my business. Hey, come buy things. Hey, you see something cool here on this video? Why don't you buy it?
Exactly, right?
Chili con comic.
Chili con comic. See, Sam, you are the Family Guy of ideas. You have like the most amazing non sequitur, like let's make a right turn over here and all right.
Yeah, no, I will have the most random references.
Random references
all
day long. That we can count on you.
Yes.
Excessively long executive producer Sam Zia. So last week we're still talking video games. No. A lot of things. There were a lot of things.
There were some things. It was let's give them the full description of what was going on. We said we are still talking about video games, but why?
Well, why? Well, last week we had the Electronic Entertainment Expo. So last Monday we talked about the press conferences that occurred. But as I always like to point out, that is not E3. Those are press conferences that happen because of E3.
Yeah.
The actual Expo is the 3 days in the middle of the week. You know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the 3 days that there's an actual show floor. And then, as we mentioned before, this year was the first year they sold 15,000 tickets.
The first year that they opened it up to the public.
They opened it up to allow 15K of people to come in. 15,000 rubes. I mean, 15,000 morons. I mean, 15,000 normals.
You can't buy anything there, right? I mean,
I was not there, but I've been seeing things because of this.
Yeah.
This is something that we can come to you as well, because I feel that E3 has gone the way of of San Diego Comic-Con now. It's becoming that where I feel in the next couple of years they're going to start. I mean, I feel that the publishers are going to try to take advantage of all these normals, all these rubes, all these morons, and start selling shit there. I don't know if that's going to be against the rules of the expo.
Here's what happened.
So one of the things we're going to go to, obviously I could not go, but executive producer Sam Zia was able to use his connections at his work to get himself at the show. You went Tuesday and Thursday.
That's right.
Tell us what it was like at the show, since I could not go and do the thing. Okay. Tell us how the thing was.
Well, lines are something that are fairly common at E3.
Yes.
So
this is true.
They only got enhanced by all of the.
I would say dehanced. I would say it was not an improvement. Enhancement would sound like an improvement.
No.
I say everything I've heard. It was the opposite of enhancement.
It got crowded, and you would see nothing but those what we started referring to them as piss yellow tags.
I thought that was quite cruel.
Yeah, they basically all of the normal people,
all the general public badges were a bright piss yellow or a very neon yellow, so to speak.
Yeah, Mountain Dew pea yellow.
Ugh.
Yeah,
that is unfortunate.
And they took up most of the lines, obviously.
Right.
There was a sense of like that. Oh my God, I can't believe we're here feeling from them. Mm-hmm. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. When E3 decided to open it up to the public, that's them jumping the shark.
Yeah.
Because
this is true.
So many companies, like say last year, EA, Activision, a bunch of companies that didn't do anything on the show floor, and they did stuff outside. And they realized that there are more and more companies that are not showing up, and the only way we can keep this thing relevant, because a lot of the business side stuff that happens at E3, all the meetings and all the stuff, like the media stuff that goes on over there, all of the stuff on the convention floor, is all stuff that gets done online now.
Yep.
So there's the relevance for the conference has dwindled, and fewer and fewer companies are showing up. So the only way that the conference can stay viable and relevant for the next 10 years is to open it to the public.
And to turn into Video Game Con.
Yeah. So now it's something where people want to show up, and it's like 15,000 people, and you got the sense from them like when they were going in there, it was like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. They're like, I got a golden ticket. No, you got a yellow piss pass.
No, but what I always said, the first E3 that you go to is always the best E3. Because you have no idea what you were in for. It's like I said, it's a magical land. Yeah. You see all these booths, and then they don't put in the effort like they used to put into. I mean, good God, all the booths that
generally let you down.
And as time progresses, as each year you see it kind of get, it degrades from year to year because all these companies are seeing the return on their investment. I remember my first few shows, it was insane to go. I remember like the year the Xbox 360 was announced. Mm-hmm. The entire Microsoft booth was a giant Xbox 360.
Yeah.
I remember that. You had to walk. You could walk up this ramp and go inside. It was like a multi-story because Microsoft was having their meetings inside this monolith.
Yeah.
Wow.
EA had this amazing booth where 4 giant solid walls. You'd go inside and there was just video games all along the walls. Yeah. It was. I remember they had this giant fucking scrambler. That was the first time I saw Burnout 3. A trailer for that. This is a PS2 game, but I saw that it looked fucking amazing. It was a sensory overload back in those days, and I feel nowadays they're not spending that much money because they would invest this money because it was a big industry show where industry decision makers who would buy more copies of games based on the meetings and the information they would gather from this show. Now it's E3 Comic-Con. It's Video Game Con now.
And you can, like, all the trailers that they do, with everything that's involved with the show,
well, the internet,
all done online.
The internet has, as the internet continues to improve things, it has, made all these other things easier, and therefore, yeah, as you keep saying, the relevance of the show. This used to be the most important thing to a lot of games. It was honestly, it was one of the most important things to me for most of my gaming life. I mean, in the late '90s, I wanted to go so bad, and then I finally got in the early 2000s, and I went every year for the last 13, 14 years, and now I'm not there. And then the reaction I've been hearing from all friends, like yourself, I had several other friends who went to the show, and they had similar feelings. It is overwhelmingly insane now, where lines that would be half an hour to an hour before were 2 to 4 hours. A bunch of my friends in my current Destiny clan, viewer discretion advised, I'm in a new clan now. A bunch of them were actually there. They had to wait 3-4 hours to play the new Destiny, where 2 years ago when I was playing, I tried the Taken King, I waited
an hour.
Not even, dude. I waited 15 to 20 minutes. I played it 4 or 5 times, so I could keep getting the
little password.
The little password, so I can get enough of the passwords for the rest of my clan. My old clan, Swordbear. I wanted to get a bunch of these codes to get them the exclusive shader, the exclusive item for the game. Yeah, it was
sold for about 200 after.
I gave them away. I didn't care. But now it's like, yeah, you had to wait 4 hours to play the new Destiny game. I was like, wow, that.
And
nuts.
I think Nintendo obviously had the best overall presentation.
That's another thing that we're going to want to talk about, yes.
We'll get into that, but like the lines for that at the beginning were not out of control. The crowd was out of control.
Yeah.
And you can sneak into the lines and wait 30 minutes.
Because a lot of people were just because Nintendo's really good at creating a spectacle in their booth.
The next 2 days, they added rails and made sure that everybody was in line and orderly and everything. And then the line became 4 hours long to play.
Yeah, because they were having to cut off the line, an hour into the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it's something I'm sure you've seen in all the years you've been to comic book conventions, where there's a signing with a personality, and they just cut off the line. This is just to play a game for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's one of the tips I gave. Like, you had to manage your time wisely when you're at E3, and now it's impossible to manage that time because you're investing 3-4 hours to play a game for 10 minutes. And it's unequitable. I mean, it's madness, I dare say.
And I played, and Sony had this thing where you have to use the Sony app to reserve spots to play the games.
Oh, boy.
You could not either log into the app. It was just
because it's a server overload because so many people are trying to go. Shit!
And so I couldn't play anything Sony based because you just couldn't get in on time.
That's wow.
So there was a lot of like. It was over, and let's put it this way: if the yellow piss passes didn't exist, it would have been pretty barren, because the industry people have dwindled off. There's not people.
Well, honestly, I mean, most of the industry people I know still went. That's the thing. There's still a good. I think the head count I heard overall was somewhere still in the 50,000 range. Because you still had a lot of industry people, but you're not going to see them on the show floor. No, they don't want to be on the show floor anymore because it's opened up to be this giant zoo. So they're all off in the concourse hall that connects the two. That's where there are a lot of meeting rooms. There's a second floor that no one ever goes to. Yep. That's where everybody has their private meeting rooms, and a lot of people are just having their meetings off-site. Yep. There's all these things going on because it was. Yeah, all told, it was like 50,000 people crammed into the convention center, and that's a hefty amount of people in just 2 of the 4 halls.
Yeah, and if you went on the showroom floor, it was pretty crowded, and
it was like San Diego Comic-Con. What I've heard, it was very hard to walk around.
Yeah, and I would have loved to have seen it without that because it would have seemed like it was empty because there was so few people that were on the floor doing the.
Well, no, if the public people were not there, then all the industry people would have been on the show floor.
Yeah.
It would not have been empty, my friend.
No,
I feel like
it was.
No, it would have been like a normal E3 where the industry people would.
I think there's less people now, even without that. Even if they were on the floor, less people are showing up. The industry.
Oh, I feel like where you were on.
Like harmonics aren't even showing up at all.
Well, no, okay. Now, to be fair, they don't have a new product.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Because I saw you and Lamar were like pleading to them on Facebook, but if it financially, it was pointless to show for the only reason they even showed they didn't have a booth last year. Yeah. PDP had a booth for them because they made a guitar for them.
Yeah,
like and that's the thing. It goes back to that phrase I keep talking about: return on investment. There is no investment for them to fly out here from Boston. Maybe they were there. Yeah. You know what? Honestly, they might have been there, but they just didn't have a booth. There was no reason for them to set up Rock Band other than for us to masturbate and frickin' play Rock Band to enjoy ourselves like you, I, and Lamar did
But
last year.
That's what I'm saying. There were so few companies that have been showing up, and the companies that
No,
do
but
show up
specific-
have a smaller presence.
No.
So the actual number of people that are there have dwindled.
No,
The
this goes back to.
industry people, they're not showing up.
This goes back to another problem. No, okay, this is a problem I talked about a week or two ago, where we have less and less developers now. There's less publishers.
Yeah.
There's less money to throw around on this. They're
And
not.
that's
They're not showing. It's not that they're showing up because all the public is there. No, that's not the reason they're not showing up. They're not showing up because either A, they don't have a product to show, to promote, to make money, or B, they don't have money to come out here because all their budgets are very tight. It's not because of these brand new people who are on the floor.
That's not
No,
what
you
I
said if the.
No, I'm saying if they weren't there, I wanted to see what the crowd of actual industry professionals.
Oh, there would have been more. I mean, because you still had 40,000. Okay, there was 50.
No, but that's what we're.
There's 40,000.
There's less and less people showing
Yes.
up, so that grew.
Like I meant, as in people, I mean as in developers, actual companies buying space on the floor.
And that's what I'm talking about. There's less and less people, less return on investment, so there's not as many people showing up.
But you still have attendees. No, you still have attendees. There's a difference. Okay,
Yeah, I know.
what I'm talking about, there's a difference between.
But there's less of them now.
No,
than
okay.
ever. As far
You're
as
talking.
the-
Okay,
as far as
you're
the
talking about
industry-
exhibitors. I'm talking about attendees, like the media.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. There's fewer of them too.
Sam, we're talking about two different things here. I feel like you. I feel like you're misunderstanding what I'm saying.
Well, no, I'm understanding what you are saying. I'm saying something that it's a matter of how much less people there are in general. Like
Well, yeah.
the actual crowd that was there was significantly.
No.
like, it was only bolstered by the fact that there was public allowed in there. As far as the media and the people on the floor.
I know. Sorry for the fighting, Chanel.
Yeah, no, for the media, as far as media goes, the attendees and all of the professional people, the industry people,
They're still there.
no, it's fewer. They weren't there in as big of numbers. I was there. I saw
Okay,
it.
but all right, okay, but
Like, you're going off.
I'm talking about math here. Listen to the math, Sam. 40,000 versus 15,000. The attendance number that was announced was freaking nearly 60,000 people.
Yeah, and most of the people that did
They were
show up-
hiding.
No, this is the thing. Most of the people that did show up, instead of the companies, were vendors. People selling stuff. So a lot of the booths were taken by people who were selling stuff on site.
Okay, so that's why I wasn't there for that.
Yeah.
What were they selling? So what was being sold?
Anime stuff, video game toys, everything.
No, because I don't. Lamar had a very interesting comment where he was surprised that Microsoft had moved from West Hall to South Hall.
Yeah.
Where I was like I was pleasantly surprised because that's where they traditionally had been before, back in the. Prior to the E3 changing in 2008, because like Microsoft had always taken a giant footprint in the South Hall,
Yeah.
and Microsoft and then Sony and Nintendo would control the other hall. But when E3 was shrunken over the course from 06 to 09, when because it was gone 07, it was a smaller event. It was a private event in 07, 08. When it came back, they had less space. They no longer had the Kentia Hall. They no longer used Concourse to have extra booths. Because I remember I used to go to the Atlas booth in the Concourse Hall. They used to use an office space for it. And now they actually have a booth. And so everything was kind of smashed together. But what it's not there's less publishers there. So now you're telling me that there were
More vendors.
So what was this over with where Nintendo and Sony was?
Both halls.
So it was both halls.
Yeah, both halls had like.
I kind of wish I had seen this now.
Well, no, and a lot of the smaller companies gone. So like
a lot of your accessory companies that were like.
Yeah, a bunch of like my personal favorite, Jesus for Gamers, gone. Like most of the companies were gone. Most of the small companies weren't there anymore. A lot of them were vendors. There was one.
See, I should.
Massage area set up. They used the space differently with more.
See now, I should have looked up a map of the show floor to see.
Different. It was a different vibe.
Like right when I saw Lamar's post, I should have looked up an E3 map to see what the 2017 map was this year.
A good chunk of the floor was not being used anymore.
That's interesting.
Like they just corded it off. So there may be people who have gotten passes and stuff, but once you went out there and saw how many of them were the yellow passes in relation to how many were people that were like business people there that were part of the industry.
Well, a lot of them were taking meetings. Well,
yeah,
I feel
a lot
like
of them were taking meetings,
but
most of the stuff
they're not
came
going to
on
the show floor. They're
Yeah.
not going. Like that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
And
They're
most
not
of-
going to the show floor.
And a lot of the stuff on the floor aren't developers anymore.
Yeah.
It's vendors. There are people there that want. I went and I bought some stuff over there. It's
So-
the first time I've ever
so
spent
it's-
money at E3.
So it's turning into a convention. Because
Yeah.
I remember in the old days, in the Kentia Hall downstairs, there would be some vendors, some guys selling video games downstairs. Kind of the or all the early VR stuff back in the mid 2000s. They would be downstairs in the Kentia Hall. So now you're telling me that has now proliferated into the actual show floor.
Yeah.
Instead of trying out demos, now it's people selling wares.
And even the E3 shop that they had, that's the only place where I would spend money just to get a shirt.
So I remember that
another-
shop used to be outside.
Yeah.
Was that shop inside now, or?
They had two of them now.
Oh, so they had one on the
They had
outside,
one on the outside
and
then
one on the inside. Wow, that
So that's what I'm seeing now. It's not. It's like
it's becoming video game con.
Yeah, and the developers aren't there. The people, the media, weren't there. I mean, they were there, but they get very easily drowned out by all of the yellow passes.
Interesting. See now,
so-
now I really wish I had spent the money to buy one of those stupid yellow passes so I can.
The show itself.
No, I mean not for the show. No, not for that show. For this show. So
people
for,
can see it.
for this, so I could have, I would have been there with a lot of Facebook Live videos showing, like pointing out differences. Now I wish I'd seen it so I could.
Yeah.
So I can provide a good point of reference. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
It was a different vibe, but not that different.
But there's a change. No, but
Yeah,
the I guess you could say the temperature in the room was different this time.
Yeah, well, it felt more like people wanting to go there and nerd out more than actual the business end of it. Because I love going to E3 and shooting the shit with people.
Yes.
And going and learning about the new stuff, sitting in on whatever conference or whatever videos I can get or anything, any trailers, anything. And
so in the old days, I'd just be going there to run into people from the industry that I knew, and then hopefully meet some other people. Like, they're the one. I think I mentioned it last week. I talked to the creator of Ratchet and Clank. I talked to the creators of freaking Sly Cooper. There was one year where I was just getting. Then watch it on. Irv, you can listen to it on iTunes later if you want to hear the other half of the conversation. I'll try to point the microphone towards Sam, but.
No, they don't care.
No, Irv apparently can only hear my half of the conversation.
Yeah, but it was a different energy, but it was. It seems like this is the way it's going to have to go for it to stay relevant. Because if those yellow passes weren't there, people, as far as industry goes, they weren't walking around on the floor. They were it was a different vibe. The companies weren't showing up, and they were being replaced by vendors.
That is crazy.
And if you didn't have the people, the regular general public there, the vendors wouldn't have showed up.
Okay, no, I see your point on that.
Yeah.
Now it's becoming like a comic book convention.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. This is a question I want to ask you, Sam. Were there a lot of cosplayers?
No.
Oh, okay.
But they started to pop up on the third day a little bit. But I get the feeling next year you're going to start seeing it more.
There's gonna be a lot more cosplayers. Like it'll be kind of like Anime Expo where they're all hanging out in the lobby.
Yeah, in the front.
Yeah.
In the front, because they can't fit their cosplay through the doors.
Yeah, and the biggest line was just to get into the con because there were so many the yellow taggers that were dying to get in right off the bat. Everybody who was industry that didn't need to be there inside of it,
They didn't go.
They didn't go until later. Like they'll show up later because it was pointless.
Wow, that is a referendum on the E3 that you and I know. But now it's becoming something more lines of something that you would experience, Mr. P. Mulaney.
It sounds like it. I mean, it makes sense that they have vendors. I mean, you figure there's the idea of extra 15,000 public people are going to be there. Like, you want to be there to sell stuff.
No, because
the swag sucked, so they wanted something to go home with.
Yeah, that's right. I've been saying that for years. There was no financial incentive for them to give out stuff. I remember Nintendo gave out Game Boy Advances one year. If you got in line, there was this rotating table, and then 3 of the slots would be Game Boy Advances, and the others would be hats and shirts and all kinds of stuff. And then whatever came up and landed in front of you, you would get it. And then I got a GBA.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's different because it used to be a trade. This used to be a trade show to help promote their products to vendor. Oh, well, when I say vendor, I mean to promote products to distributors, people, Walmart and Target and Best Buy and and anything in between. When there used to be actually smaller, there were a lot more vendors back in the day. There was a lot more retailers, I should say.
Yeah,
there are a lot more mom and pop stores. Like those kind of stores would be the places would be show up there to see what am I ordering later this year. Kind of like a Diamond Summit that you would go to, where like what products am I ordering for my comic shop. Now everything's kind of been homogenized, where like you're just getting this stuff either from a big box store or you're buying it from Amazon. So now they're going to have to change. They're changing. It is changing into a comic book or a video game convention. Yeah. Something along the lines of like a Penny Arcade Expo or something like that, where it's just like, oh, this is for funsies now. This is no longer a business endeavor. Now it's like we need to fund it by going to the public, and now maybe next year you can have a nostalgic books and comics booth at E3 and sell comics.
You could really get in with that, no problem.
But the space would probably be terrifyingly expensive.
Yeah. Well,
that ain't no $200 table, my friend.
You could easily get in as industry, just based off of the fact that you own the shop. You just send them a letter, you can get in. It's something that I would consider doing next year.
Fucking A. Yeah. We could have used the store to get you and me in E3.
Yeah.
E3 2018. We're going to do that, and then we will watch my eternal suffering next time.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely want to do that. But and as far as like the actual show goes, like forget the crowds and how it was arranged. The actual show goes, it was about a 6 out of 10. It wasn't fantastic. There wasn't any major standouts. There wasn't anything super overwhelming. Everybody had to get into the Nintendo booth to get a shot at the to play.
Getting the hat.
Yeah, and I got the hat.
Everybody wanted the hat,
and it's selling pretty big right now. It's selling for $200.
The aftermarket on some of the swag is pretty interesting.
Yeah,
it is turning into San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah. So I went and I played that. I played 10 minutes of it. It's awesome.
It's awesome. It's a good game.
Yeah, and I know it's a 3D game. You don't like the...
No, I'm actually very interested in that game. Like everything I've seen so far. I mean, because a lot of people were saying it was like cultural appropriation Mario because they showed him wearing a sombrero, but there was a...
That's right.
No, but...
I saw it.
What people don't know is that all those different suits they were putting him in, those are all, like, if you look back at old Nintendo games, when Mario would show up and be like a referee or just be in the background, those are all, like, because there's a game where he's wearing the sombrero and a poncho in one of the games, in an old game from the 80s. So all those suits he was wearing, those all tie into, like, we're using the background of, like, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, or if we're using the background of NES Tournament Golf, or, like, they are based in a piece of Mario history. Like, so some, SJWs were like, cultural appropriation. It's like, nah, this is history. This is history, and it's a silly video game history. I don't think Nintendo's going out of their way to like, hey, look, Mexican Mario. I mean, it's an Italian plumber from a Japanese company.
Yeah. Aside from Nintendo, Ubisoft, their entire setup was really freaking good.
Oh, a lot better than last year. I remember last year I didn't like Ubisoft setup. It was the lines were all like, it looked like the symbol from Westworld. It was all these it looked like a little maze inside this year they improved upon that.
They were more organized this year, and what they presented was great. Like, they fell off for the last 2 or 3 years. They stepped it up this year.
Because obviously they're coming out with the new South Park game.
The South Park game was great. The Assassin's Creed game looks awesome.
Really?
Origins looks really good. I saw some of the fight mechanic on it. It's changed.
So you're saying that the time they took off for this was
well spent.
Well spent. Okay, good. That I know that's something big especially for you and friend of the show Lamar, because you guys are big on Assassin's Creed.
Now the game that really. They've had a couple of games off of there that were awesome, but the one that really stood out for me is one that's coming out next year.
Chanel's trying to distract me with images. I wonder what she's sending me.
It's called Skull and Bones. Did you see the trailer on that?
No, I did not see the trailer on that.
It's the same mechanic from Black Flag, from Assassin's Creed Black Flag. But it's a game, it's an online game where, and I'm hoping there's a story mode too, but it's an online game where you team up with other people. You have each one of you is the captain of your own boat, and you're doing like treasure hunts against other teams.
Jai Pollard on Facebook Live says, 3D Metroid and 3D Zelda is what Dre doesn't like. Ask him about Super Mario Plumber.
Yeah. No.
And then Irv brought up another point, something that was not talked about during the show last week, the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't even there.
Yeah, there was nothing. There was nothing about it.
Yeah. They didn't have anything new to show. There was no new trailers or anything. They didn't have.
I'm slightly surprised.
They were kind of sad. Really.
With Square?
Yeah, Square, like last year.
I heard there was like another friend of the show, Joshua Lee, was saying how there was like something where like last year you would have waited 5 minutes to play, you had to wait an hour to play now.
Yeah, there was a lot of expectations behind it. A lot of people were showing up, and they also did a game. What was it? The Final Fantasy XIV that's coming out. So they had some of that. Action.
The Heaven's Word. Yeah, but something that else. Well, Square Enix, they kind of held up, although they held back some information because they had one of those. Because during the week of E3, there's a lot of other events that coincide at the same time. They take advantage of the fact of a high concentration of nerds. There was a Kingdom Hearts concert, much like there's usually a Legend of Zelda concert. And apparently, at that concert, at the very end of the show, the developer from Kingdom Hearts, Tetsuya Nomura, came out and he showed that crowd a trailer for the new Kingdom Hearts game.
Yeah.
And then he told them that it's not going to be at E3, but it'll be at Disney's event D23.
Yeah.
Because I had to point out to my friend Jai, I'm like, yeah, that's a Disney property, so they're saving it for the Disney convention.
Which is crazy because there's doing the Marvel stuff there too.
Yeah, all the Marvel stuff is happening at D23
before Comic-Con.
It's a double middle finger to Comic-Con because Disney's not going to like pack all that stuff and head south to San Diego. They have everything right there in Anaheim.
Yeah.
It was a weird vibe. It felt like a lot of companies that usually step up and do some good stuff. Square.
They're holding. They're not investing. Yeah. They're not, again, like the original point that we said earlier, they're not investing as much as they normally would into this event. E3 is now becoming just a convention that it'd be the equivalent. They're going to probably start putting the same effort that they put in E3 that they would into like because San Diego Comic Con has a lot of video games now. A lot of these video game makes, they're going to probably put a lot less financial effort or financial backing into these events where like, oh, we don't need to spend like, I remember like back in the day, EA is spending like $5 million on their booth. There's no reason for them to do that anymore. Yeah. There's no incentive.
Yeah, and I guess the one that went in with the most hype, especially after their press conference, but really just kind of fell short during the show, and then. Well, yeah, it was Microsoft.
Oh my God, Microsoft.
Because
they announced a new console and then they fall on their faces.
Yeah, well, they announced a console that has great specs. It looks good. A lot of the games that are coming out, like the Assassin's Creed game, they ran it on the Xbox
One X.
And what they did to themselves by naming it the Xbox One X is basically Wii U-ing themselves.
They really have.
It
honestly,
like everybody looking, I was like, wow, this is really good. This is really good. What's the name of it? Okay, fuck it.
I mean, God, they could have just called it the goddamn Scorpio, and it would have just been fine.
People would have lost it for that.
I feel like a name is very important.
They Wii U'd themselves. They really did.
A name is important. It's not just like feeling good about buying it. It's being able to differentiate it from its previous products.
Yeah.
I mean, like obviously Sony's had the advantage where they just keep upping the number one. So okay, it's PS4, and I'm sure in a couple of years we're gonna get the PS5. And in 20 years, the PS9, like they used to when they joked about that when the PS3 came out, where you just played it in your head. Yeah. But we belabored this last week about it.
Was the PS6.
No, it was the 9. Like the commercial was the PS9.
Oh, okay. No, I mean I think we're gonna have that for the PS6.
Oh, maybe it's gonna be the PS6. I don't know. But virtual reality technology is advancing really quick. But one company, but we didn't get to talk about last week.
Sorry, but that was the highlight of Square Enix's thing was their Final Fantasy 15 VR fishing. No. that was the best that they had.
But I had a great segue, and you stepped on my dick, Sam.
I'm sorry.
I had an amazing segue, and you just walked up to my dick and stepped on it. Let's rewind. See, unlike Microsoft, the company that we did not get to talk about last week, who I felt probably had the best showing out of everyone, was Nintendo. Yeah. Nintendo, Tuesday morning, they went out, they did half an hour compared to everyone else where Microsoft went 90 minutes, Sony did an hour of nothing but trailers. And then Nintendo came out and they I really feel like everyone underestimated what Nintendo was going to do because nobody knew. Like, they have to announce a new Smash. They didn't announce a new Smash. They showed more Odyssey. And then they showed a new. Well, they didn't even show the game. They announced Metroid Prime 4, and as I posted on Facebook, a picture of Randy Marsh jizzing all over himself. That's what I pictured Nintendo fans everywhere, because a lot of Nintendo fans have very strong emotions regarding Metroid Prime. And then for me, they showed new Metroid Prime. Well, later on, actually, after they didn't even show it during the thing. They showed it like on a separate feed later on. A new Metroid for the 3DS, and that's where I shot my load, because that's something that I personally really wanted. And I'm trying to remember, they showed a new Kirby game, they showed a new Yoshi game, they showed all these, and then of course everyone's hyped about Mario. And I could have sworn there was the Mario and the Rabbids game.
Yeah.
So they showed all this stuff. That was in the Ubisoft booth as well. And so they showed all these games, and out of nowhere, like Nintendo usually does this on years where everybody thinks they're not going to do anything. Nintendo kind of stole the show.
Oh, yeah.
They just walked in, they announced, because Metroid has always been kind of the game that a lot of the Nintendo nerds, like even people who don't like Nintendo, they've always kind of like, okay, but Metroid is good. Like, we like Metroid. And they intentionally or unintentionally won everyone over just by simply announcing that new Metroid for the Nintendo Switch. And then showing that, we're taking a remake of the Game Boy Metroid from Metroid 2. That freaking won me over. And then another low-key one that I think I'll later, one of my favorite RPGs, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, is also getting a remake on the 3DS. And I'm like, Nintendo just walked in, everyone's up there like slugging each other. We're like, Xbox Scorpio, and then God of War in VR. And then Nintendo's like, here's some games that you guys really want. And okay, that made all the nerds happy.
Yeah.
And it's like everything. Well, how come people always shit on Nintendo, but when Nintendo shows you their software, it's like we're all, like I said, we're all battered wives. Like, oh, we'll take you back, Nintendo. It's like, oh, you showed us the cool games. We love you. And yeah, they unintentionally stole, or people always like to say, who won E3? And then I think Nintendo actually kind of by default they won E3 because of
as far as like companies that make consoles go, as far between Microsoft, it's usually between Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo.
It's between
Nintendo
those.
is head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah, but between software and just the announcements and just making everyone happy, and they intentionally unintentionally walked away with the show, which I thought that was fascinating. And then the one thing that they did not do, which you and I, if those of you watched the Twitch post game last week, Sam and I had a very spirited discussion about a Super Nintendo Classic. After the success of the NES Classic last holiday, Sam was very much expecting that there was going to be a Super Nintendo Classic announced, and we didn't get anything. I'm sure, that might, now Nintendo's habit of they do things on their own schedule, maybe we'll get a Nintendo Direct later on where they're going to talk about, here's a Super Nintendo Classic, because I don't recall when the NES Classic. I think it was announced at E3. No, it was announced sometime in the summer, because it was right when I had started working at GameStop again in August last year. They had just announced it, and everyone was asking about pre-ordering it. So maybe there's going to be a Nintendo Direct sometime in the next couple of months where maybe they're going to make a Super NES Classic. So after our spirited discussion, I put together a list of games that I think would be appropriate.
Okay.
On the SNES Classic, and shit, I just realized. You guys know where the list is?
Oh, it's on your phone.
It's on my phone.
Okay, so give us your best recollection.
My best recollection. So no, I went through. So naturally, I think Nintendo is going to put their best of first party games. So I'm going to get out a piece of paper. Hang on.
Here.
You got some paper over there?
Paper.
Yeah, the miracle of live streaming. Oh no, shaking my head. Yes, Chanel. We're totally messing things up on here. So naturally, you got your Super Mario World.
Yeah.
So because I knew off the top of my head, there's about 17 Super Mario World. We had Metroid. We had Legend of Zelda. LOZ. Super Mario All Stars.
Yes.
All Stars. Donkey Kong Country.
Yes.
So yeah, all your classic.
All of the Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah, there's 3 of those.
Yeah.
You got your F-Zero.
Yes.
Got your Pilot Wings launch title.
That was a good one.
You got your Mario RPG.
Yes, I would do that.
Because I feel like Nintendo controls that IP more so than Square. You have let's see, now that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 10 already right there. You got your Earthbound, which is that's a Nintendo IP. Mm-hmm. That's a crazy game. Ah, crap. So now my this is like when we played that movie game. I'm trying to remember all the movies. Yeah. I took the time and Yoshi's World. Thank you. Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. Yep. Because there's about 17, but so how many? Do you recall how many games were on the SNES Classic? Was that 30? That was 30. So we have 17 first-party titles. Yeah. Roughly. So I was going through all the third-party titles. So that was something you and I were discussing. Where I was talking about what games would be licensable and what games wouldn't be. Yeah. So Star Fox. Thank you, Star Fox. Star Fox. I'm like, it was killing me. I'm like, there's a big one I'm forgetting, and it's murdering me. This is why we do the show live, so we can have people come on and correct me. When this show gets much more popular, it'll be a deluge of corrections and retractions instead of just a handful of people hitting me with all this stuff. Sim City, that was another one because the OG Sim City would be something that we'd have on there, but the third party stuff. So one of the first ones I thought off the top of my head, one of the 3 Street Fighter 2 games. Yeah. Because that was one of the first times where you actually had a game that was very similar to the arcade in a home console. Because I remember my buddy Taro Takioka back in middle school. He had a Super Nintendo, and we played Street Fighter 2. We had tournaments in his house. Nice. It was pretty awesome. It was insane. So either Street Fighter 2, the original, or Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I think that would be one of the third-party ones.
Also, another third-party one I would put in there, Mortal Kombat.
Maybe, yeah.
And the reason why is because it's on the Genesis console that I have.
I'll see what that will. But the game was so much better on Genesis than it was on Super Nintendo. Because the Super Nintendo...
You had the blood code.
It was the blood code. Because all the fatalities.
Yeah.
So everyone keeps... Mega Man X, Chanel on Twitch, and I believe it was Mega Man X. Capcom and Nintendo have always had a good relationship. So Mega Man X, that would be one of the perennial ones. So Super Castlevania 4... Konami's a bunch of dicks right now. That's the only problem I would have with that game. Currently, Konami is a very evil company. Friend of the show, Irv Denny was telling me how apparently recently Konami is blackballing all their former employees. Where
it started with Kojima.
It started with Hideo Kojima, creator of Metal Gear Solid, but apparently now, if you have worked at Konami, it is a black mark on your resume, and if you try to get a job elsewhere, they're like, oh no, well, your services are not required here.
Wow, they pissed off the entire industry? How the fuck do you do that?
I don't know, man. When you're being shitty to everyone, it's pretty easy to just piss off everyone. I mean, just piss off the entire game. Like, I mean, I guess it's a giant sign of I guess it was a giant sign of disrespect in Japan. So now it's not even that the Konami is blackballing people. It's that having that on your resume, like they have disrespected so many of their own employees that now, like if you used to work there, it's like, nah, we want nothing to do with you. Yeah. Like where it is a scarlet letter on you, a scarlet K. Yes. A scarlet K is with you for the rest of your career. You might have to delete it from your resume, much like I don't want to delete the 3 months of GameStop off my resume. So now again, this is another point of contention you and I had. It was the Japanese RPGs.
Yeah, and those were hugely prevalent on the.
They were. I feel that the Super Nintendo, and then in a close second. It was the PS1 is like the greatest era of role-playing games.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. But my point of contention with the Square games is even though they did allow Final Fantasy I on the NES Classic, I feel that may have been more because Nintendo co-published that game way back when in the day.
That would probably have something to do with it.
That had something to do with it, where the other games were published straight up by Square. Yeah. Or Square Soft back in those days. My contention, like, I don't know if those would make it on there because the licensing fees would be excessive. Because if they're going to charge $10-15 for you to play that game on your iPhone, how much are they going to charge Nintendo to include it? It's like, see, Kiet Fam on Facebook Live mentioned Secret of Mana, another Square Enix
That's
game.
a great game.
Amazing game. But currently, Square, I don't think they do it because in Japan, they're releasing a Secret of Mana collection or collection on the Nintendo Switch. So it would seem incongruous for like, oh, we have this, but you can download the game. Oh, or you can get the game on this NES, Super NES Classic. So these are some of the little issues I'd see with some of the third-party games where, like, the monetization of some of these titles. Where on the NES, it was a little bit different. I mean, the NES Virtual Console is a little bit different.
I can see it happening, but it's obviously up to the companies.
It's up to the companies.
Yeah.
See, right now, another Capcom game just mentioned right now, Final Fight. Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah,
Final Fight
definitely
is a classic. See, now my brain is like, there was a bunch of like, see, Jai mentions, he thinks that Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger, both companies will be leaving on the table. No, see, you have to think about it from their perspective. We think it's a big, oh no, they would lose money. No. They think they're losing money. Like Square would think that they would lose money by contributing those games to the NES Classic because they would not get as much as if they sold it themselves.
Yeah.
Or they already sell them on their own on iOS on a virtual console. They would just be, from their perspective, they would be hurting themselves. Where like, oh, they would see less money from it. That's again, one of the points of this show is to kind of explain the business side of a lot of these decisions. Like, why wouldn't they do this? And and this is where like my insight from behind the scenes is I'm like, oh no, it sounds like they're both leaving money on the table. From Nintendo side, they wouldn't need those games for the Super Nintendo Classic to sell.
Oh yeah, people will just buy it.
People are just going to buy it. So Jai Pollard who's watching, I'm like, no, both sides would not be leaving money on the table by doing it. But I think both sides would perceive that they are losing value on their product, or they would be wasting. Like Nintendo would waste money to license those two particular games, and Square would think they are losing potential profit long term. Like all these people, these are people who potentially could have bought the game directly from them.
Yeah,
because that's a big thing for Square nowadays. Because they try to get people to buy it, like instead of buying the game at Walmart or buy it at GameStop, they sell special editions directly on their website where you just buy directly from them. They've been trying to kind of cut out the middleman, so to speak. We're like, oh, don't buy that $60 version from GameStop. Buy the $90 version from us directly. And oh, wait, they get to keep the whole profit instead of, what they would have sold it to GameStop, to Walmart, to Target for. They get the whole nut, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like Square is a lot greedier than people think. I mean, their developer side has produced some of the best freaking content in the history of role-playing games, but the business side, they're much about the money.
Well, and not just they're about the money, they're teetering too. I mean, if 15 didn't succeed the way it did, you would see
they're in trouble.
Yeah, you would see them in big trouble, and they would be banking on Final Fantasy VII to pull them out.
Yeah, and that's the fear I have. To go back to that topic about Final Fantasy VII, this remake, it's such a monumental task for them to try to sell this, and I think the perceived demand is drastically higher than the actual demand. It's like that thing where a lot of people say they want something, but when the actual product comes out, they're not buying it. It's a very precarious thing. Like a friend of mine posted a really good graphic today.
Yeah.
From a Did You Know Gaming, because people always talk about it's Final Fantasy VII game. Like, so many people consider it to be one of the best Final Fantasy game, and then the graphic said the majority of people who think Final Fantasy VII is the best Final Fantasy have only played Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah. Well, it's not just that game. It was the biggest selling game on PS1, and even though you think that the demand is inflated more, it's still going to sell.
No. Well, they're making it. I mean, no. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
it is going to sell, but the amount of copies that they need to sell to justify the investment they're making into this, it's not going to be. It's like a Hollywood movie where they spend $100 million to make it. They spend another $100 million to market it, and it comes back and they made $130 million in tickets, and then realistically they only made like $70 million or $75 million from that. That's a loss.
Yeah.
So for Square, like this is, I've always felt that this Final Fantasy VII remake has been a very dangerously, it's a financially risky proposition because the amount, that's why it took them years to try to figure out a way to do it where they think they could potentially make it so they can at least break even, because the amount of time and effort they're going to have to put into to take that game, that's why it's going to be episodic.
And that's where they're going to potentially make or break it.
No, and that's where I think they're going to lose money.
Well, no.
Because a lot of people will buy episode 1,
Exactly.
but the retention rate after that's the thing.
Yeah. And
it's diminishing returns.
And that's what honestly is going to determine how successful it is. It's the
and I
fact
think
that
it's dangerous.
Episodic, and people are going to buy the first episode. It's going to sell huge.
But
whether they're able to retain it through that.
That's the difference. Where
that's where the money could be made or lost.
And I think lost, because I think a lot of times when you create something like that where it's episodic, it's. Let me go to Pete here. I want to go to an area of Pete's expertise, because I'm going to compare this to when you have a comic book come out, and it's because comic books also episodic.
Yes.
First issues always do extremely well.
Yeah.
But what are the odds of it continuing to do well? You would think it's similar diminishing returns on the majority of the products, right?
Yeah, I mean it's rare that it stays.
It stays constant.
Yeah. I mean it happens, but it's not.
It's very rare.
It's very rare. Yeah.
It's a lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
And I don't. And as much as everybody loves Final Fantasy VII, I don't foresee this being that lightning in the bottle where it's like in this episode, like a walking the walking games, Walking Dead Telltale games.
Yeah.
That one, that
was great.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was a quality product. That was really good. It had this big following, but I don't see that the same thing with Final Fantasy VII.
And that's something I can definitely see that side.
Because because you have to keep in mind, RPGs are still very niche.
Yeah.
This is a niche product. So I go to, a niche comic book, something that everybody wants. You put out that first issue, and the second issue maybe does 80% of what the previous, and then you go down another 70% of that previous 80% number, and
it keeps going.
It keeps going up, because you have to place orders every month on stuff like this, and you see that, you literally see this, right, where people are really excited about a comic, but then you're ending up having to cut down the orders because.
Yeah, they either fall off of it or but see, I think the big difference is comic books. There's a lot of people that just want that first issue.
Yeah, they only want. A lot of people will only want the first episode, and it also depends on the pricing, how they price that.
And that's where they might get. They might be won or lost. They'll probably charge full price for that first game.
No, they're not. No. Oh, if they charge $60 for that first episode, they're dead in the water.
They're
dead in the water.
I don't think they're going to be able to release episodes more than once a year.
Oh no! If you're going up, and Irv Dambutama makes a point I was just about to make. Thank you, Irv. You are reading my mind. You jumped ahead of where I was going. If they sell a season pass, that's where. But it's taking so long because you can't just release an episode every year. That's not going to work.
With the amount of production time and money that needs to go into it, I can't see them releasing it more frequently.
They're going to have. I mean, if they want it to succeed, they have to.
I agree.
Because if you wait a year, people are going to forget and not care.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this 80% drop off. Maybe we're talking about like 40. It's 50% of the people who bought episode 1 might come back next year to buy it, and then you've already failed. And then you might not even see episode 3. It depends. Well, I don't have the production budget in front of me.
Well, yeah, but if you're going to be releasing it, and I'm assuming 5 episodes or so.
$15 to $20. So the total you'd pay would be like $100.
I'd say they would charge $40.
$40 an episode?
Yeah.
And you'd pay $200 for the entire saga.
I think people.
That's a failure.
On the consumer's part, not on their part.
No, that's people wouldn't buy it.
I think they would. I think the hype around the game and how it's sold before. There's enough people that.
That's 20 years ago, man. That's 20 years ago.
Dude, 20 years
a lot of those people are not gaming anymore.
No, and a lot of people,
I think you overestimate it.
Well, no, yeah,
people can say what they want, but when they vote with their wallets, that is a completely different story.
true.
When push comes to
to an
shove,
extent.
when the money comes out,
Yeah.
that's if you tell a bunch of people if you want to play all of Final Fantasy VII and it's going to cost them $200, you've already isolated at least 50% of those people. Half of those people will not buy the game.
Well, a lot of that is based off of your view of the game.
No,
I feel like
I am looking. No, I am looking at this from an objective perspective. I'm looking at this as I'm looking at this from business perspective. For business, I'm not telling you that. Oh, I'm saying this because I don't like the game. I'm saying this because I'm looking at this from a fan perspective. If you tell people, like they say, well, Irv's saying, oh, people pay $200 for special editions, but you know how many copies of those go to every store? 1 or 2 copies. $200 for a special edition of a game. That it doesn't. That's not a like you're telling me that every person who wants to have a complete experience is going to pay $200. A lot of people are going to walk on that. That is an unbreachable. Like people bitch about paying $120 over the course of like 2 years to play Destiny. That's different because that was more of a communal experience where you have someone like me could put 2,000 hours into the game. Final Fantasy VII, that's a linear single game. There's no multiplayer. There's nothing beyond the actual story.
Yeah.
I think conservatively, I think maybe only a quarter of the people would actually pay $200, and I'm overestimating there. I'm being generous by saying I think 25% of people who would want that game would pay $200 for it over the course of and then you're saying, well, so $200 over the course of 5 years. You think people are going to stick around for 5 years? That's crossing console generations, my friend.
I think
you're operating from a fantasy right now.
No, I'm operating from how people love that game and do anything. And it's not just you're playing Final Fantasy VII. You're playing an incredibly up-res, high graphic, high definition version of the game. You're playing a game and it's something that
for 5 years.
Well, no, and
for 5 years.
And the hype behind the game.
Think about the timetable that you're talking about.
You're trying to change the subject to that, and I'm trying to tell you.
I'm going with your proposal. I'm taking your data and your proposal.
Behind the game, and think about how many people never played the game and love the hype behind it and are going to play it because of that. There's a lot of people who played it and are dying to play it again. There are people who adore the game. There's a reason why it's sold as many copies and people still play it today.
See, Jai Polidor, who is the diametric opposite of me on Final Fantasy VII, says, I love Bahamut Zero, but neither it nor getting an all-powerful inbred gold chocobo is worth that price. And he is the opposite of me. Yeah. He loves that game to the end of the earth. Kiet Pham, if people don't like the changes in the remake, they're going to walk.
And that's ultimately what's going to determine the success. It's not going
people are going to walk.
It's not going to be price point or how often it's spaced out. It's going to be if it doesn't live up to what their expectations
then it's already a failure then.
Well, no, you're already deeming it a failure. It could be better. You're already
I hope
it's immediately going to be a shit game.
I'm okay. The scenario that you have built is a failure. 5 years, $200. That because you're saying 5 episodes.
Then fine. Every 6 months. It's over 2.5 years.
Okay, see now that is a much more conceivable thing because you're staying within a because I'm trying to be okay. You're accusing me of being biased, but I am being objective.
I'm doing it off of a developmental standpoint. They couldn't make this game as far as episodic. They wouldn't be able to make the game unless 15 was successful, and if it didn't succeed, then everything would be weighing on that first episode to have the money to continue developing.
That is true. But
so it's from a developmental standpoint. The game has so many details that if they want to make it so that it lives up to the expectations, they're going to have to take a shitload of time on it.
This is, and they already have. Because this was announced. Final Fantasy VII was 2 years ago.
Yeah, so they've had 2 years to build.
And heaven knows how long before that announcement they've already been working on it.
6 months.
Okay, but so 2.5 years, and we have no information. So it's unlikely we're not going to see anything about it until E3 of next year. So we're talking 3.5 years. We're already near the end of a console cycle.
Yeah. Well, look at what everything that Final Fantasy has done. Look at the development of 15. It took 10 years and started on the PS3.
Well, they changed 3 directors.
Yeah, exactly. Look at the history of the company. If the first game isn't living, or if 7 isn't living up to the quality that people think, they're going to keep changing people.
I know, but okay. But that was one singular game.
It was actually 2 different games.
No. Listen, it's one release. That was one purchase. You're talking about 5 purchases.
Yeah. For a game that already has a huge fan base that people already adore.
I think you overestimate this.
People, yeah, really?
I feel like you
people adore that game more than.
There's
any
a
other
difference
game.
between adoring and spending.
Yes.
There's a significant difference.
And there are people who will go and spend the money for it.
Okay, let me give you a little bit more of the insight. The reason why we do this podcast. I worked for Nintendo for 7 years. Take a drink. There are lots of games that people say they want, that are clamored for, that people do giant campaigns for, and then when they finally release them, people don't buy them.
Yeah.
Because people will say they want things, but then they want them for free.
Yeah.
A lot of these quote-unquote hardcore gamers that you're talking about, all these people who adore the game, are going to want to pirate it or not pay for it or find a way to get it by hook or crook. But see, that's what I'm saying. A lot of these hardcore fans that you're talking about, people who adore this game, a lot of people, you tell them $200, they're going to give you a middle finger.
There's already enough hype around it to build to it.
Hype doesn't build a house, my friend.
No, it doesn't. Not at all.
Hype does not build a house.
But it's already been 15 was its own game, and it was one game, and it came out, but it had nobody knew what it was going into it. People know what 7 is, and there's enough people that haven't played it, that want to play it, and we're just waiting for something like this to happen. The thing is, you're selling the game short.
No, I'm not selling the game short. I'm going off. We don't. We don't know what we're gonna get.
Yeah.
And you are. We are. I'm trying to, with the information we have, I'm trying to say, okay, is it going to be episodic? That's already an issue right off the bat.
Yeah.
The price point, we don't know what the price point is going to be. That's going to be an issue right off the bat. Because you're already chopping off people who would potentially want the game. And that, you're saying this giant fan base is going to, how many of these people are going to, what percentage of people want the exact same game? But they're not going to get that.
How many people went that were Destiny fans and bought the Taken King for another $40 or $60?
They lost a lot of people.
How many people bought it, though? The people that loved it and were all about it. If they love it and are about it, they are going to.
Yeah, I love the game, but I did that.
And that's what I'm saying. The people who actually love it about it will spend.
1 year later, they're dumping the entire they're dumping the entire game and starting over this September.
Planned on that. That was already part of the agenda.
No, when the game was initially made, everything was supposed to stay static for 10 years, and now they're dumping everything. The only thing we're keeping is our characters' faces and our names. That's all we're keeping. The game was supposed to stay perpetual through the 10-year cycle, but now they're cutting bait and dumping. Here, let me tell you. The player base, our buddy, Arturo Solorio on Facebook Live, I'm sure he can give you the Chanel. She paid twice. She paid Taken King, and I bought friggin'
something. If people like it, they will pay.
Yes, no, but they're dumping this current game that no one's playing it right now. It's so.
Well, at the end
I tried.
The second one is on the way. What's the motivation?
They had to dump everything. That's the thing. They're cutting. You bring up Destiny as a counterpoint to Final Fantasy VII. That's a completely different thing.
Well, no, I'm not bringing up Destiny as a counterpoint. I'm bringing up
Destiny is a perpetual.
If people love a game,
yes,
they're going to.
But Destiny is a perpetual environment. No, Destiny is a perpetual game that's going to go on over time. It's an MMO RPG that you log in all sorts of time, and it's a communal game. Final Fantasy VII is a single player experience. You're going to play by yourself.
Yeah,
you're gonna play
Some people like that.
I know.
People, the people.
No, yes. People. Oh no, I know.
Because of that experience. Almost all the Final Fantasy games are ours.
No. You Final Fantasy 11 and Final Fantasy 14.
I said almost.
I know.
I didn't say all of them, and you know that.
But okay, follow me here. See, it's supposed to be an individual game. They're already changing the formula. So yes, there's going to be some people who like it, but this is not going to be the knockdown, drag out event that where people are going to be lining up the way people line up for Grand Theft Auto, or the way people line up, or people are going to line up for all these games.
The first episode, I disagree. I think they will be lining up in.
They're not. I think they're just going to download it at home. They're going to buy a $20 PSN card.
No,
they're going to buy a $20 PSN card, and then that's
if
we
you're
don't.
going to compare it to a GTA game that people lining up around the block, people aren't doing that for GTA anymore because they're downloading GTA as well. So it's not a matter of lining up around the block for it.
NBA and Call of Duty, they all still had
every single one of them people download.
No, there's.
So people aren't going to line up around the block for anything anymore.
If the game is episodic, then it's not a disc-based game. Then you're talking about a digitally based game. That's the difference. GTA is a disc-based game.
Yeah.
The majority of consumers nowadays still. That's the reason why Xbox One had to walk back a lot of their stuff, because the majority of your consumers still want discs.
Yeah, no, they're going to make it disc-based, I believe. I think.
If you're making an episodic game, it's going to be digital.
Well, no, it'll be both. If it's episodic, they can get the second disc for the second part. People will do it. They did the same thing. Didn't they release the disc of the Telltale games?
Yeah.
Of Walking Dead?
That disc gets you the first episode, and you have to download the rest.
No, it has all of them on there. I think they released it afterward. After all of them came out, they had all of them on one.
No, the way those Telltale discs work is you get that first disc,
and then the rest of them are downloads.
Yes,
so
that's my Guardians of the Galaxy that I have. It gets me the first episode, and I have to download the rest.
Okay, so if you go and get this first episode, you get the disc of it, and then the rest of them you can download.
No, but see, on those on the Telltale games, you're getting that $30 price gets you everything.
Okay.
And on this, you're not getting everything. You're not unless you give them the whatever their price point is going to be,
because season pass or whatever it's going to be. If they make it so that you can buy the entire package right off the bat, which they're probably going to do because it's a good way to make more money off.
But if you're 6 to 8 months, 6 to 9 to a year apart, you can't do that.
They can. I think they can. If they establish the price point for each episode, yeah.
I know you love games, Sam. I know you're big in the games, but you have to understand the logistics and the industry side of this.
What would change as far as the price point of each episode?
No. Okay, you can't just keep buying. You have to keep buying individual discs, and that's.
Well, no. You buy the first disc and the rest, just like the Telltale games that you're talking about.
No, but then you
buy the first disc and the rest of them are downloads.
If they keep making them. If they don't pull the plug if the first one fails, there's a difference. If the first one fails,
and the first episode, like we said, is going to sell big.
It might sell big.
Fail. It's going to succeed, and the rest.
I need more drink.
I
wish this was vodka right now.
No, the rest of the episodes are going to be made based off of that success.
I don't know. Until we get more info, both of us are making a lot of suppositions here. We're making a lot of assumptions.
Yeah.
I'm making my assumptions from the basis of what I've seen in the history of the industry, and you're making assumptions from what fans would want. And those are two completely different viewpoints.
Oh, absolutely. But
and I'm trying to point out to you where the fan view is completely different from what the way a publisher would view all this. And you're telling me that I'm wrong because I'm coming at this with facts.
Well, no, you're coming at this with theory, and there's no fact behind it. We don't have any facts.
I'm presenting fact. The way episodic content is produced in these days is a lot of discussion based on a few rumors.
And a lot of it, and
see, Telltale games. Thank you, kid. $30 for 5 episodes. You're getting 5 episodes for $30.
For a quality of game that's not even close to the same.
It's different. That's what I'm saying.
It's way different.
And that's where that's where I see the problem is the price that they're going to have to charge to make
it so that they can produce the whole thing
is going to be cost prohibitive. It's big baller brand. They're going to have to charge $500. And it's like saying you're going to be paying. All right, so kid, like in theory, you're going to be paying $60 an episode.
40. Possibly 60. Yeah, but I'll say 40.
$40 an episode. However long it's going to take. Like if they're not producing everything all at once, Wow, we're going way over
Yeah.
it. We're beating our dicks in over stuff we don't have facts on.
Yeah.
Over facts. It started as a discussion about Super Nintendo, and not to mention the amount of space the game will take up. Jai Potter says on Facebook Live, and it's Square Enix, and it's going to start at $60. Yeah, that most likely they're going to ask for 60 off the bat, and then you have to keep paying however much, 20 or 40 an episode after that. And we'll see what the return rate is on that.
I think that after the first episode, they're going to have enough money to do it.
To justify everything?
Yeah. And on top of that, using the money that they brought in from 15, yeah.
So we shall see in 2020, my friend.
If 15 didn't succeed, then it would be a lot harder for them to pull it off. Then everything would be weighing.
Honestly, there's a lot of other factors that they have to freaking weigh in, like Tomb Raider and Hitman. There's a lot of other things that they're counting on to keep their company afloat at the moment.
But 15 was the big thing for them.
It was. It
did well. It did well enough that they're building on that even.
Kiat Fam makes an excellent point. You're going to run into a Xenosaga problem where they intended 6 episodes, but only made 4.
Or before they did the crowdfunding on it, Shenmue.
We shall see.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I am not trying to be biased. I'm trying to tell you this from historically what I have seen from in the history of games, the way people buy games. This is a very precarious and treacherous direction they've gone. Like I say, it's a no-win. I have said for years the Final Fantasy VII remake is a no-win situation for Square.
Well, you've been sticking to that for since I've known you, and
it's a no-win situation.
And there's a lot of people. If it was, then Square wouldn't even bother putting it out again.
Believe me, they've been talking about it for 15 years.
and did you see how people were responding to when they dick teased them? It's not like this is like a game that's people.
I know, but
it's that first episode is going to be huge.
I'm
willing to bet it'll compete with one of the Grand Theft Auto.
The first one, yes, but we're gonna have to. The first one, yes, but everything after that, that's a crapshoot.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Everything after that is a crapshoot, but I feel like that first episode, as far as sales go, will rival any of the Grand Theft Auto.
We shall see. We shall see, my friend.
Makes it a lot harder to pull off. That's for damn sure.
That's what I'm saying. That's the crux of my argument is that they're going episodic, but
and I've acknowledged that it is that's going to be a problem, but I still think that they're going to make
a point I'm trying to make. RPGs are still a very niche thing. I mean, still very niche.
But there's enough overwhelming hype about this game to make it so people will carry it over. Because there's enough people that haven't played it that have wanted to because of the hype.
I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see in 2025 when it releases.
Yeah, we'll see in 2030.
Well, when it finally is completed.
Judging based off of development times on Square Enix games recently, we won't see it until 2030.
2030, when I'm already dead in the ground. I'll be dead, and you guys can play this video. Good God, that went off the rails.
A little bit.
We have more viewers. Apparently, we need to fight more often.
Agree. We need conflict. Why do you think I'm bringing it?
Because you love conflict and you love stepping on my dick during the show.
I love tweaking you and getting you to this point.
But you like cutting me off too. And then when we go back and you listen to the episode, oh shit, I cut off a good point that you said.
I held back a lot this time.
Dios mío. For my combative executive producer, Sam Zia, and for Judgmental Nerd, Pete Molini, I am
Hater Andre. No, just kidding.
I am embattled. I am embattled talk show host Dre Cervantes. I hope you guys come back. Have a good day. Oh, no, let's see. Iceberg's going ham on the facts here. You're a little late, man. I needed this shit 20 minutes ago.
10th selling game all time? Or wait.
It's at 10th selling game.
Skyrim.
Oh, okay.
Skyrim is the 10th selling game of all time.
Yeah.
There's no Japanese RPG in the top 50 games of all time. But well, we're doing the close. I'm trying to close show. SamZ570, nostalgic _ comics. Yeah, I remembered this time. At Dre GP Podcast. If you're listening to this on iTunes or SoundCloud, thank you. My brain's not working. I don't like my brain. If you're listening to this, you can always watch us on Facebook Live at facebook.com/Dre GP Podcast. You can see the whole staff. We had at some point, we had actually 5 viewers on Twitch. You can watch us, all 3 of us, on Twitch at twitch.tv/Dre GP Podcast. For my staff, I'm Dre Cervantes. Thank you for listening and or watching. You guys have a good night.